Welcome to Evidence Mastery. I'm your host, Dr. Masoud Tusi. Today we're diving into a really important document that's set to make a huge impact on how we all approach real-world evidence. It's called the HARmonized Protocol Template to Enhance Reproducibility of Hypothesis Evaluating Real-World Evidence Studies on Treatment Effects. I know, it's a mouthful, but for short, we'll call it HARPER. This is a major report from a joint task force of the International Society for Pharmacoepidemiology and the Professional Society for Health Economics and Outcomes Research.
So, HARPER's main goal is to bring a new level of clarity and standardization to a field that, let's be honest, really needs it. So let's break down the problem it's actually designed to solve.
So what's the big problem here? Well, the task force put it perfectly in their report. They said ambiguity in communication of key study parameters limits the utility of real-world evidence studies in healthcare decision-making. In other words, when studies are fuzzy or unclear about their methods, their data, or their analysis, they just aren't as useful for making those critical real-world healthcare decisions, and that's a massive issue.
Now, before we get too deep, just a quick heads up. What you're about to see is our summary of the official HARPER guidance. It's a great overview, but we absolutely encourage you to go read the full task force report yourself to get all the nitty-gritty details. It is well worth your time.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about the reproducibility problem in real-world evidence. Then we'll introduce HARPER as the harmonized solution. After that, we'll take a peek inside the template itself, and finally, we'll look at its future impact and how it's going to be disseminated. Ready? Let's get started.
All right, first up, the RWE reproducibility problem. To really get why a new protocol template like HARPER was so necessary, we first need to understand the core challenges that have been holding back the field of real-world evidence.
You know, the field has been wrestling with some pretty significant issues for a while now. There's often a lack of transparency, just a wild amount of variability in how critical details get reported from one study to the next. And we've all seen those high-profile cases where biased methods or totally unsuitable data were used, and all of that, well, it just chips away at credibility and confidence.
So this all leads to the central question the task force set out to answer. How do we create a common language, a shared set of expectations that ensures RWE studies are transparent, rigorous, and most importantly, reproducible?
And that brings us to the solution, HARPER. But this isn't just another template thrown onto the pile. No, this represents a major collaborative effort to create a new global standard for research.
HARPER, again, stands for Harmonized Protocol Template to Enhance Reproducibility, and its credibility comes directly from who created it. We're talking a joint task force from ISPE and ISPOR that brought everyone to the table: regulators, HTA organizations, industry experts, and top academics from around the world. The whole shebang.
HARPER's mission is really built on three crystal clear goals. First, to help investigators meticulously document their choices and why they made them. Second, to make it super easy for reviewers to assess any potential for bias. And third, the ultimate goal, to provide enough detail that another research team could, in theory, reproduce the entire study. That's the holy grail, right?
And what's really smart is that the task force didn't try to reinvent the wheel. HARPER actually builds on what already works by harmonizing four major existing templates and guidelines, including ones from the EMA, ISPE, NEST, and START-RWE. It takes the best parts of each to create one single, unified structure.
So what does this HARPER template actually look like? Let's go inside the structure they designed to promote both clarity and serious scientific rigor.
The core design philosophy is this really powerful combination of two elements. On one hand, you have free text sections. This is where investigators explain the why, the context, and the rationale behind their scientific decisions. On the other hand, you've got these structured tables. This is for the what and the how, all the specific operational details of how the study was implemented.
Here's a high-level look at the core sections. You can see it creates a logical story for any study. It starts with the timeline and scientific rationale. Then it nails down a sharp research question. From there, it dives deep into the methods, which we'll explore next, before transparently addressing the study's limitations and protections for human subjects. This systematic flow is absolutely key to making sure nothing gets missed.
Now, Section 7, Research Methods. That is truly the heart of the HARPER protocol. It's the most detailed and granular section, and it's broken down into critical subsections that cover everything from the study design and setting to the specific variables, the data sources, and the full analysis plan.
And it's this level of detail that makes HARPER so powerful.
For example, when you're defining study variables, the template forces you to be specific. It asks, what is being measured? What's the exact timing of that measurement? The care setting, the type of codes used, the source of any algorithms, and was this variable pre-specified? It's this kind of granularity that makes true reproducibility possible.
So a great template exists, but how does it go from being a document to becoming a global standard? Well, that brings us to our final section, future impact and dissemination.
The task force has a really clear strategy. It started with publication and presentations back in 2022. The next step is a 2-year plan to pilot the template with key international regulatory and HTA bodies. And the long-term vision? To engage with major study registries like EUPass and clinicaltrials.gov to make HARPER an integral part of study registration itself.
This entire effort, really, it all serves one ultimate goal: to create a shared understanding that reduces ambiguity and enhances the utility of real-world evidence. The aim is to make RWE a more reliable and trusted tool in making better healthcare decisions for every single one of us.
So this leaves us with one final question to think about. With its collaborative foundation and its rigorous structure, can HARPER truly become the global standard for real-world evidence protocols? The foundation is certainly strong, but its ultimate impact? Well, that's a story that's still being written.
And that's all the time we have for our breakdown of the HARPER template. Thank you so much for joining us here on Evidence Mastery. I hope you found it insightful.
And for those of you who are interested in exploring these topics even further, I wanted to let you know about a book I'm working on called Real-World Evidence, Tools and Templates. It aims to be a really useful compendium for professionals in the field. It's slated for release in 2027, and you'll be able to find it on Amazon.com. Thanks again for watching.